Welcome to Insights for Manufacturing, the podcast that supports the UK manufacturing sector. Hosted by Jeff Beecham, the manufacturer's recruiter. Hello and welcome to Insights for Manufacturing. Today I'm joined by my guest, Gary Sheader, who is the founder and managing director at the Manufacturers Alliance. Welcome to the show, Gary. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
You're very welcome. I know we did have a sort of brief catch up the other side of Christmas. It seems so long ago now. And, everybody's sort of more or less back into the swing of things. It's all a bit frantic. And here we are recording another series of these podcasts. So looking forward to our discussion today.
Yeah, sense.
For our audience that maybe aren't familiar with the Manufacturers Alliance, can you just give us a bit of a flavour as to how it all came about? You know, what inspired you to establish the Manufacturers Alliance, and how's it sort of evolved over the years?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an accident how it started. There's a little bit of a parallel with the chat we were having before the podcast, Jeff, and that's what led to it was raising money for charity.
Yeah.
So someone that I knew that they've been doing some work for us and helping us out with something. She her daughter, and then knew straight away that her daughter wasn't well. So her daughter had a congenital heart disease. Was sent home with a baby that wasn't well, but felt that they were treated, I suppose, like most parents are. You know, that's it. Our job's done. We've delivered your baby. Now you crack on and look after it.
Yeah.
But when you've got a baby that's really ill, they were kind of like, what are we meant to do with this thing that we've been told is like really ill? What should we be doing anything differently? And they felt a bit exposed and left out on their own. And unfortunately, a daughter leg and passed away at 12 weeks old.
Oh.
And Karen said, you know, I really want to do something. I want to make sure this doesn't happen to other people who are in a similar situation to us, where there's some support in place that, you know, people have got someone from day one who can help them. So Karen wanted to start her own charity. I said that I could help, but I had absolutely no clue. We were chatting about this before the podcast. Like, how do you help charities? I don't know anything about setting up charities or at that particular time, no involvement, or, you know, what could I do? The only thing that I knew at the time was I knew a few manufacturing companies, and through just chatting, we decided we'll do a manufacturing meeting. We'll bring in a couple of speakers, and we'll just ask all the people that attend, stuff some money in a pot, and then whatever monies get stuffed in the pot in the meeting, we give that to Karen, and that's the start of a charity.
Yeah.
So we did that. It was great, and I don't like networking, so it was kind of like, I'll help you with it. So this is me right outside of my comfort zone, running a networking meeting. Don't like being, you know, center of attention, all that kind of stuff. So I helped her with it. Then people were saying, when are we doing it again? And it was like, I thought that was it. We've done it.
Yeah.
And people wanted to do it again, and obviously Karen was appreciative of doing it again. So we did it for a year. So every month we met in an evening, pie and peas, couple of hours, brought different speakers in, and each month we raised more and more money for the charity.
Yeah.
Which now Legan's Foundation is a national charity, and they're doing a fantastic job. So it's good that, I mean, still, you know, keep in contact with Karen. We still do fundraising for them. But that was the start of the alliance in a way. And I mean, it wasn't the alliance then; it was just an evening networking group for manufacturers.
Yeah.
But what I found at the time was it was called Bolton Manufacturers Group. I mean, as you're probably familiar, Jeff, Bolton's the centre of the UK, and everyone wants to get to Bolton. But we had people coming from Yorkshire as far as Hull. We had people coming up from your neck of the woods, you know, down as far as Coventry.
Yeah.
Lake District, Liverpool, and it was like, why are people coming
Yeah.
these distances
You're onto
for a pie
something.
and peas evening in Bolton to talk about manufacturing?
Yeah.
And the feedback was it's a safe space. It's only manufacturers that they're at the event. You know, whoever you're speaking to is another manufacturer,
Yeah.
and there just isn't anything locally where we can meet up with other people. We're bringing different speakers in to just talk about different things that are value to manufacturers.
Mm.
And then beyond that, there was a kind of group of people over a period of time that were saying, "Oh, a couple of hours is great, but want to know more about improving operations or sales or change management and all these other topics."
Yeah.
There's not long enough, the 2 hours, because you've got to fit some time in with some food. We've got some speakers to listen to. You want to have a chat to other people. You
Yeah.
don't really get into the depth. So we set up a couple of meetings where they were full day meetings rather than just a couple of hours in an evening.
Yeah.
And that was the start of it. So this is just over 10 years ago now. We ran a couple of tasters, invited a few different companies in, and again that was it really. We set up a peer group, and I suppose for me then it was like job done. You know, we've got a group
Yeah.
of people who want to meet, but then it was the same again. It's, oh, this is great, it works. Let's set up a second group. So over the course of 10 years, we're at 10 peer groups now, and you know, it's just, I mean, you mentioned about like the evolution of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the evolution of it has been supporting more manufacturers has been partly the evolution, but I also think the two ears and one mouth philosophy for us. You know, I'm naturally quite introverted, so I'm much better at listening than I am at talking. So I think the listening to people, listening to what manufacturers' needs are,
Mm.
we've managed to keep it fresh. You know,
Yeah.
where when people are coming back, because I mean the commitment to our peer groups is a full day every month.
Okay.
So it has to stay fresh for people to stay engaged and involved with it. And
Yeah.
you know, we are still working with a lot of businesses that we started out with 10 years ago. So I think that's how we've continued to evolve, and that's by listening in the simplest form. I know, like, you know, you've got to kind of turn that into something, listening to people. But if you don't listen, then you don't know what you're going to turn it into, really.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's interesting that concept just in itself, because, you know, I suppose manufacturing, like most business sectors, needs a certain level of support, different types of support, and but each manufacturing business has got its own set of circumstances and set of challenges or problems. So if you've got you know, you could design I don't know, a course, a seminar, whatever it might be on a certain topic. Well, the chances of that exactly fitting what your manufacturing community are going to want and need, it's a bit of a lottery, isn't it? So the whole listening thing, you're basically getting the, you know, the real roots of what's going on in the community of the people, you know, in your sort of circle, in the alliance, and you can, you know, design stuff that they actually need and that they want and that they're asking for, in effect, which is, you know, probably the right way round.
We've tried lots of things. A lot of things haven't worked. So I'm not saying that we listen, and you know, every time we listen, we do something, and oh, as if by magic. That's another thing that's brilliant. But we're open to that kind of failing fast
Yeah.
mentality of, you know, some of our customers have come up with some ideas or they've suggested something. Let's give it a go, see how it gets on. If it gains some traction and people getting some value, we carry on. If people say that's not working, then we don't carry on with it.
Yeah. That's a nice sort of gradual evolution, isn't it? And you're sort of following the flow from the manufacturers that are, you know, that have got these sort of challenges. So that it sounds very collaborative. We'll get on to, I'm sure, talking a little bit more about different ways of collaborating during the conversation. But What a fantastic journey over 10 years, crikey. Well, congratulations on that in itself. That's for any organization to survive for that long, you got to be doing most things right, haven't you? So well done for that. So coming back to leadership then, in your experience and what you're seeing, sort of currently and over the last sort of 6 months or so, what are you finding are the most significant challenges, Gary, facing manufacturing and engineering leaders? And what is the Manufacturers Alliance doing to, hopefully, navigate them through those challenges?
Well, I'll stay like general with it because I can't say what I'm going to say is every manufacturing engineering company in the UK, would share this, but I would say generally skills challenges, which I think ties in with not enough people coming into the sector, young people entering into manufacturing
Yeah.
is a challenge for people. So I would say that there are some skills issues. Would be one general thing that I think is affecting a lot of people.
Yep.
I think uncertainty. We've been through, a period of change that hopefully, we don't experience again in our lifetimes. But I think with COVID and the political landscape,
Yeah.
the cost of living crisis, energy crisis, economic uncertainty across the globe, wars, all these things are just creating a lot of noise and uncertainty in the sector, which, people, they hold on to the purse strings. And as soon as a few people start doing that, it just
Yeah.
cascades all the way through the supply chain
Yeah.
when people are not spending. So I think that uncertainty isn't helping. So I think there's a lot of manufacturers experiencing that. Again, not all, because there are some manufacturers having a good time currently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think that sustainability is becoming a pressure for people. I think there are some people who want to go down the sustainability route, that genuinely want to go down the route. They want to do good for the planet
Yeah.
and people, and their reason for wanting to get to net zero and beyond that is because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But even for people who are not that, there's still a pressure in some sectors where there's these deadlines on
Yeah.
net zero 2030. And I think that's starting to have a ripple effect now. The reality, I think, is starting to hit people,
Yeah.
of how we're going to achieve that in our business. Which my own personal view is it can only be positive. So whether people, it's a lot of nonsense, global warming and all that, or whether they're for it. I think what it'll create innovation. I think when you get these pressure points on, we've got to get to net zero by X day. I think manufacturing and engineering are great innovators.
Yeah.
So when you're up against it, I think we'll see some real magic
Yeah.
in, kind of new products, systems, ways of developing things that mean we get there quicker. Because if we just said, well, let's just leave it till 2050, no one will, we'll all just leave it, won't we? And say, oh,
Yeah.
well, that's miles away. Let's not bother. So I think the tight deadline will force innovation. I think so. I think that's a pressure for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
some are good pressure, others not so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say retaining people. I think retaining talent, which I think is closely linked to kind of employee engagement.
Yeah.
It is a is a challenge. And I know we've spoken about this, before, Jeff.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's market forces, and it's just one of those things, and you still got to do something about it. But I think sometimes it's self-inflicted. I think
Yeah.
generally people, they don't leave businesses, they leave bad managers. Um, and we're not running our businesses effective enough to keep people excited and wanting to work for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think the retaining talent, I think it's a mix of some of it we're doing it, really, we're creating it, and some of it's the market forces. I think when
Yeah.
it's great, BAE Systems and companies like that are doing great, things are going well. But when they say, "Oh, we're going to recruit another 2,000 people next year," it just like empties all the local SME companies of engineers, which
Yes.
doesn't help the supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen that so many times over the years, without mentioning any names. Automotive's another example of that, where when the OEMs have got a big recruitment drive on, the tier ones, they're the first ones that get hoovered up, and then they're backfilling from other tier ones or tier twos, and it sort of just goes down the line, and it just has a really huge effect, I think, on the SME companies, because you do struggle to compete with some of the bigger companies, on salary, on benefits, on
Yeah,
on
and you can't,
conditions.
can you? You
Yeah,
can't. Yeah, if you're going to try and compete on money, for a lot of people, it's not really possible. But I know from some of the conversations we've had, even in an exit interview, people are polite, and they say why they're leaving, but we get the warts and all
yeah,
chat, don't we?
yeah,
People tell us
absolutely.
why they've really left the company.
Yeah,
Um, you probably hear it more than anyone. So you've got a really clear picture of how manufacturers are leading and managing within their organisations, and there's some work to be done, isn't there, on how we do that.
absolutely. Most people listening to this would think I've got a very biased opinion, because I'm a recruiter or an executive headhunter. But as with anything in business and life, I do think there needs to be balance. And yeah, I think there is work to be done in terms of company culture, employee engagement, hiring, retention, development, all of those good things. Um, but a lot of businesses, they're not inherently bad. A lot of leaders and managers, if I can use that term, they don't set out to be bad leaders and managers. There are always, some mitigating circumstances. But from my point of view, and you're right, I do see it, practically every day. I'm either talking to a client, a prospective client, or, candidates or prospective candidates that all got their own story. And it's like anything, if you took a snapshot of UK manufacturing, you will always have a proportion of businesses out there that have got a great culture. They're an employer of choice. They treat their people well. Everybody within reason are pretty happy. It's a success story. You've got the others at the other end of the scale that wouldn't know what good culture was if it fell on their head and crushed them. Attrition's just, revolving doors. Sometimes it's because they just don't know any different.
Yeah,
And then you've got your sort of in between. So I don't think anytime soon that whole conundrum is going to ever be solved properly. It's just, we're dealing with people at the end of the day, and uh, it's such a fluid landscape. People have a good day, they have a bad day. If they're having a bad day, it might mean that they're not really the person that they normally are. And it's down to interpretation of why individuals, whether it's bosses or team members, go about things in a certain style. So it is always a challenge. I think budgets come into it a little bit. I know sort of training and development would love to have a bit more budget allocated for the right reasons, and I'm always a fan of supporting that. But you got to work with what you got to work with, haven't you? When you're running a business, if your P&L and cash flow is saying, well, yeah, we'd love to do a bit more on employee engagement or CSR or DEI or any of these initiatives, you can only do so much at a time, can't you? But yeah, it's an interesting one. And organizations like yourselves, that are involved in, trying to get leadership into a better place through whatever events, training, seminars, courses, networking, peer groups, all the good stuff that you do. There's enough information out there, and there is actually enough. I think there's enough support out there in the market if businesses are willing to spend a bit of time invested in trying to make their organization a bit better or make their culture a bit better. I think there are enough answers out there in general, but we're dealing with a frantic sector, aren't we? Manufacturing it's always, there's never any downtime. It's always a challenge. I haven't spoke to many manufacturers that have got any spare time. Usually something's always kicking off, whether it's a new customer or a new product introduction, or there's an issue with the plant, something's gone wrong. It's a very dynamic environment, but as long as there's support organizations out there, the help, it's just got to be signposted, and leaders have just got to take the time to dip their toe in the water, I think.
Yeah, I think for us that's where our peer groups work
Yeah.
well. I think for a lot of these challenges that manufacturers are faced with, I think for a lot of manufacturers, they just want to see how other people are doing it. They don't necessarily want to pay a consultant to come in. I think just show me what it is, and we'll crack on, and we'll make it happen. I
Yeah.
think that's where the peer groups work well, because I think once someone sees some best practice in, how someone's leading the team, that how they behave, the way they speak. So not necessarily best practice in terms of let's go and have a look at some operational best practice and lean techniques and all that kind of stuff. I think within a peer group of other MDs and senior people in manufacturing, I think there's a lot of facets to it.
Yeah.
In terms of what your takeaways are, in terms of learning, and starting picking up on other people's styles and being challenged by other people. Because in your own business, when you're the MD, it's not always a good career move for other people to say, we think you're a tosser. Where other people in a peer group can say, you're coming across as a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
And people in your own business won't say that. But when you go to a peer group with other people running businesses, they'll be honest with you and say, look, if you spoke to me like that, I'd just tell you do one. Do you know what I mean? It's just, so you get that honesty that maybe you don't quite get in your own organization.
That's a good point.
And some people like that, and some people go, come on, bring it on, give me the honesty, and some people don't like it, and they're just kind of like, well, that feedback isn't for me. Well, we all need it, don't we?
Such is life. Yeah, I mean, the peer-to-peer thing, it's sort of like you're forcing that individual that's probably, hesitant to hear the truth to get in front of that mirror, and it's a safe space, isn't it? What you do, the conversations that you and your groups have, that's got to be better to hear something you don't want to hear, rather than in the boardroom or on the factory floor in your own business. So maybe that's
just not know. It's a blind spot.
Yeah.
That no one's willing to tell you what it is in your own organization. But, through, stepping outside and getting some, I'm not saying everyone should join our peer groups, but from somewhere, get yourself a coach or do something to just get some feedback on, on how you're perceived by other people.
Yeah. Bit of 360 feedback didn't hurt anybody. That's what they tell me anyway. So leadership skills then, I mean, for you, what sort of key leadership qualities do you think are absolutely essential in the modern manufacturing space, in terms of, navigating some of the challenges that most manufacturers are facing? What are the sort of standouts for you in terms of skills or even values, come to think of it?
Well, I think it ties in with what we were just talking about, and I think like in the modern language, it'd be referred to as having a growth mindset.
Yeah,
Um, in old money, that might be, someone who's just open to learning, got an open mind. So I do think it's that type of leader that's open to open to feedback. Is a learner. And approaches life with an open mind.
yeah,
People, situations, um, and we're all capable of growing and developing. But I think when you're on it and you're a learner and a grower and someone who's developing yourself, you get it. So I think when you sat opposite one of your managers, other
yeah,
people in your business, you understand it. You understand that, to outsiders looking in, I'm trying to, get better at having difficult conversations. To someone who's already good at it, they go, "Oh, put your big boys pants on and just get on with it."
yeah,
But to someone who finds it hard, it's a real challenge. I think someone who is a learner gets that when someone sits opposite you and says, "Do you know what? I find this really difficult,"
mm,
they know how hard that is. To some people, it might seem, "Oh, is that it?" But they'll support someone through it.
yeah,
I think the modern leader is, well, all companies need a vision, but it's been able to facilitate people
yeah,
towards that.
yeah,
I think the authoritarian telling style, it's just outdated. I think supporting people through the growth, facilitating, the team's growth together is all about modern leadership, and it's
yeah,
more of it's very kind of community and people led, and it's different than what it used to be. It's what people want to be
yeah,
part of now.
yeah,
You need to lead that. And I think the thing that's at the nub of it that is that leap of faith is being vulnerable. And that from the chat that we were having, before we kicked off, we've all had different types of upbringings. It's not for everyone, the being vulnerable with
yeah,
with your team.
yeah,
But that's modern. That to me, that is modern leadership. I think admitting that you're not good at some stuff. We've all got strengths. Yeah, share the things that you're good at, but you've got to lead by example and say there's some things that I'm not good at, and
yeah,
these are things that I'm not good at, and laugh about it. Don't give me that stuff. I'm terrible with it. But I
yeah,
just think there's a lot of people out there that there's this facade that they're
yes.
bulletproof and amazing at everything.
That's just not the case. It does also create
No.
opportunity for others, doesn't it? If the leader sort of opens up and they're showing their authentic self, warts and all. Hopefully not too many warts, but um, just sort of showing people that yeah, they're human, that they are the leader or the boss or whatever it might be. But I think by showing their own vulnerabilities, I think that endears a bit of trust and some understanding. I think people are a little bit more likely to certainly persevere with a leader who's trying to maybe change the way they're doing something, or they need to get XYZ results. I think if you're showing some of your own, let's call them weaknesses, but just areas for development, because
Yeah.
everybody's got them, that again, if a leader says, oh well, I hate doing this, or I've never been any good at that, or I don't really know too much about that. What a great opportunity for somebody to then go, well, I can help with that. And it could then create an even better career path for themselves, So there's one benefit straight away for leaders just being a little bit more open and showing a little bit more um, of what you get when you scratch underneath the surface a little bit. I think it can only be a good thing. So tell me about the Leadership Academy. What is that, and who's it for, Gary?
Well, predominantly it's for our customers who are all mostly SME manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
Um, and again, that was born out of listening to the challenges of, I think, sending the teams away for training, bringing people in to deliver training, leadership training.
Yeah.
Um, Not averse to spending money. We've sent people off for a few days. We've sent people off for months. We've spent a few £100. We've spent a few £1,000. And the general feedback has been people's behaviours don't change, and the company's not seeing any tangible benefit.
Mm.
So our academy has been built on behavioural change and delivering results, because that's what our customers
Yes.
want to see. So our style of delivering training through the academy is all around experiential learning.
Mm.
So it's about learning by doing. So yeah, you need some theory, but we don't use PowerPoints. So I think there's some people who are sitting through 150 PowerPoint slides, and it's just it's not sticking. I mean, it wouldn't stick for me either.
Yeah.
But the best way of learning is by giving stuff a go and trying it.
Yeah.
And if that's behavioral stuff, having a difficult conversation, well, let's give it a go.
Yeah. Yeah.
let's have one in the room together. What's worked for you before? What isn't working? So yeah, that our academy's grown over the years, just on the back of getting our customers' challenges and saying, could you create a solution for that?
Yeah. So is it sort of it's every sort of session, or I suppose course is the wrong word, but these are sort of put together and on a bespoke customer scenario, are they? Or
No, mostly not. So
okay.
if you like our team leader program as an example, similar to our peer groups, we bring lots of people together from different businesses. The
Yeah.
groups are capped at eight people in a group, so we keep it tight and intimate.
Yeah.
But that group go on a journey together. So the program's about 9 months, and then they meet roughly every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But it's the whole suite of tools and leadership development that gives them the full toolbox of being able to lead a team. But it's done in a practical way of doing
Yeah.
it. So if there's stuff that's to be delivered in the department, our facilitators, well, because we host the development on factory sites,
Yeah.
they go out and deliver it. So they go into that person's department and say, right, let's go and find the problem together,
Right. Okay.
and let's solve a problem
Yeah.
as a team. So rather than doing some kind of theory, let's just get out there and do it together. So that's kind of
Yeah.
generally our style of training.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I mean, you mentioned facilitation. Yeah, and that in itself is a valuable resource for most businesses. So the Manufacturers Alliance, you provide facilitation as part of your suite of leadership support. I think for the benefit of our audience, the listeners, or anybody watching on YouTube, I think it's worth noting that facilitation is subtly different to coaching and mentoring. What are the typical scenarios are you being called upon by your clients to actually facilitate? Have you got a couple of examples of, maybe scenarios or topics, themes that sort of crop up regularly?
Yeah, and this is something that people have said to me in the past, that I'm delusional and the Manufacturers Alliance model doesn't work for this reason.
Okay.
And that's the facilitation of people saying, we've got a problem with this, and us connecting them with one of our customers that have solved that problem before.
Right.
So the facilitation is connecting people to help each other.
Yeah.
Um, and this is where I've been accused of lack of commercial nous, because I should be selling consultancy to these people. I said, all right, you've got that problem. Well, here's so many £100,000 worth of consulting to
Yeah.
fix it. But
Yeah.
it's just not, that's not right. My way of doing things, and I don't think the way things should be done. So,
Okay.
so the facilitation, I would say, is the connecting of people, is by far, on if not daily basis, at least every other day, all our peer groups have WhatsApp groups. Someone will drop something in one of the WhatsApp groups. Who's solved this problem before?
Yeah.
And everyone mucks in and says, "Oh, we did this, we did that," or "Come to our business and have a look." And if it can't be solved in that group, we drop it in all the other groups and say, "Who's ever fixed this?" So I would say that's probably the most common. But I think if it's a facilitation of, can one of your facilitators come in and help us with something?
Yeah.
I would say it's the dynamics within a leadership team, typically.
Okay. Okay. And that's the sort of different agendas, personality styles,
Yeah,
sometimes the
you know
structure.
it's not working, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
The dynamics within the team, it isn't, what it needs to be. We've tried all kinds of things to put it right.
Mm.
I think it's now time to bring an external resource in
Yep.
to help us with it. So I would say that's probably the most common.
Yeah.
But like others, helping manage change, improvement, growth plans and strategies. But I would say, yeah, the thing that is, and not everyone reaches out, but I think the thing that is kind of most common is just, yeah, we haven't got a high performing leadership team.
Yeah. But I mean, with the best will in the world and the best level of talent within a leadership team, individual skills, experiences, high performance. I suppose you can relate it to football, couldn't you? You might have a team of absolute superstars, but then they don't always make the best team. With a leadership team, you absolutely need it to be cohesive, don't you? You need everybody to be, I know it's a cliche, but pulling in the right direction. You certainly don't need mini silos in a leadership team. Bad enough having silos throughout an organization, but if you've got these sort of roadblocks or sort of little silos in a leadership team, especially a senior leadership team, the negative impact throughout the whole organization is just, it just goes on and on and on. So that whole dynamic, the relationships, again, the sort of agenda. This is one thing that always fascinates me with leadership teams, is that sometimes you can get people that are they're doing a great job, but there's an agenda there. Sometimes it's counterproductive for the business because they've got their own personal ends to look after. Other times they might have a negative effect on one of their peers within that leadership team. They're all individually doing a great job for the business, but there's just,
Yeah, but not collectively.
creates friction, and then that sort of cascades down into the individual functional teams that these leaders are responsible for. It's very tough to keep stuff within a boardroom, isn't it? Sometimes it does spill out into the wider business. So I can see where facilitation and being the glue that holds all that together properly, and matching everything up and getting a cohesive team. I think there's a deep art to being able to do that. It's I suppose you've got to identify where the problems and the challenges are in the first place and get rid of some of that denial as well.
Well,
It's like what you were
that's
saying about the
leadership,
peer
Jeff,
groups.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I've just listened to Stephen Bartlett's new book. Is it like 33 Laws of Business and Life?
Yeah.
And he mentions Alex Ferguson,
Okay.
in that. not that I'm a Ferguson fan or a Man United fan, but is just really kind of holding the set of kind of values of that team front and center, and saying it's always going to be about the team,
Yep.
and there's never going to be anyone who's bigger and better than the team or this club. And he's had some amazing talent that he's just said, no thanks, just moved them on.
Yeah.
You're not a
Yep.
team player. You're not working with the rest of the team. You don't fit. You're gone. Not everyone has always agreed with him, but in his prime, I don't know if any manager's ever gonna match what he achieved. But it was always about people. If you hear the stories about Ferguson, he was a people manager, really. I mean, he obviously knew his football, but first and foremost, he was about people. Very, very emotionally intelligent guy. Really got to know everyone. Like everything about everyone. Knew
Yeah.
everything about the families,
Yeah.
what was going on in their extended families. Very, very personable guy. But that to me that's the modern leadership,
Yep.
isn't it? It's about really getting to know your people. Yeah, I mean you can parachute someone like me in or one of my team in to come and help you fix it, but I think we'll come to the same root cause, and that's we've got to improve the got to improve the leadership. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we'll be
Yeah.
coming back again in
Yeah.
in 12 months' time.
Yeah. So where do you see the dial currently in terms of manufacturing business owners being either ready to exit or sometimes even having an exit strategy? What are you seeing in general in the market?
I'm probably seeing more people ready than there's ever been.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of appetite for exit.
Hmm.
Um, but I think just over the most recent years, I think one of the learnings for me has been that the sale of a business is perceived as being similar to selling your house, where you put it in a shop window, and then a week later you get half a dozen people wander around, someone puts an offer in, and
Yeah.
I just walk away with a bunch of cash, and it's all done in 10 weeks. But yeah, the reality of selling businesses just doesn't look anything like that. You know,
Yeah.
the yeah, there has to be a buyer. Most people overvalue the companies as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't think people understand the timeline of preparing your exit. Well in advance of maximizing. If you're selling, maximizing the value of your company takes some time.
Yeah.
Some planning and making changes to make sure you get the best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
But if it's exit and people are not selling, and it's succession, I think similarly, there's no real long-term planning where I think going back to the retaining people, they might have kept some good people if there was a bit more openness about succession planning.
Yeah.
That it's not going to be yet, Jeff. You're not going to be operations director next year, but let's be open. This is the current team. These are the potential people coming up through the ranks that could take some of these roles.
Yeah.
We might be looking at 3 to 5 years, Jeff, and the ops director's role is potentially something that we could develop you into. Now, I might be happy with that,
Yeah.
but if no one has that conversation with me, or there's some transparency about succession, there's nothing for me in this business. I'm off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing worse than people, no matter what sort of level you are in an organization, it's almost like if you're kept in the dark, you're going to make assumptions yourself, aren't you? That there's either an opportunity or there isn't, as the case may be. So I think whether it's, we're talking about sort of exits and succession at the moment, but it could be about anything, couldn't it? And this is one of the things about leadership. I think that, with a little bit more transparency, that just, I don't know, it just settles people down a little bit more. I think people's fuse grows a little bit more with a little bit more transparency. People are, they'll be prepared to push through the tough times a little bit more because they can see,
Yeah.
what's coming down the track. They can see that light at the end of the tunnel, or they can see that the business are trying to do X, Y, Z. And I know why organizations and leadership teams have to do certain things and have certain high level conversations behind closed doors. That's just the way of the world. It's not a free for all. There is a reason why leaders are in these positions and have to make strategic decisions. But sometimes I think that there's probably not enough that could be shared. I think I don't know. I don't know what the stats are. You probably wouldn't get stats, but I think the larger companies have got a good communication protocol. They've got great systems in place, and all of these things where stuff does get sort of farmed out throughout the organization. When you look at an SME company, if you were looking at a 10-man, 20-man, or 20-person business with a sole owner or an MD, I think that is potentially more of a scenario where you don't get to hear about anything until it's probably happened, unless you've got the ear of the MD. So there must be thousands and thousands of people out there in businesses that they go to work, they get paid, they do a good job or not, they progress or they don't. But there's a lot of stuff that's just unknown a lot of the time. And half the time with an SME, the MD is probably that busy trying to juggle paying suppliers, winning new business, getting money from the bank, investing, whatever it might be. I can see why sometimes that's a ball that does get dropped quite often. But I think if people just had a little bit more clarity about where's the business going to be in 2 years' time or in 6 months' time, or, the business might be thinking about, open up in a new plant or relocating, or, you can't tell the ins and outs of all these things to the whole workforce. But I think there is quite a lot that's probably kept under wraps a little bit too long. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think
whether that's
particularly in
about
bad
trust.
times. Yeah, I think the communication quite often tails off, doesn't it? If we're not having a good
Yeah.
time, we don't really want to be, doing a town hall meeting and telling people we're not doing well.
Yeah.
But people already know, don't they? But
They're
whatever
not stupid.
department you're in, if you're in supply chain, we're not buying as many materials, and if you're in manufacturing, we're not making as much.
Yeah.
We're not making as much stuff, and the transport aren't putting as much stuff in the vehicle. So it's not rocket science, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
People know we're not doing well. So I think best being honest, aren't you, about current state of affairs, but also what we're doing about it. What our plans are for the future. I think that's all people want to know, don't they? Are we stuck here? Are things never going to change? But I think a bit of optimism about we're going to get through it. Don't worry about it. These
Yeah.
are some of the things that we've got going on behind the scenes. We're developing this new product. We're looking at these other markets. I think people would be appreciative. I think you're right in terms of communication.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So we're sort of coming towards the end of the discussion this afternoon, Gary. I've got one more question for you, and this is about your sort of calendar. I suppose we're in January now as we're recording this. I know you host a number of different sort of events throughout the year. You've got your peer group events. I know you do some round tables and webinars and that type of stuff. What big topics are you covering across your portfolio of events during the next 6 months, for example? Can you just give us a bit of a snapshot as to what you've got on offer?
Yeah, we're working closely with an organisation called AMPI, so Advanced Machinery and Productivity Institute. I hope I've got that right, but
Okay.
I think that's it. But they're going to become a national organisation to support all machinery manufacturers in the UK.
Okay.
The head office is Rochdale, so we've been helping them with engaging with machinery manufacturers locally.
Yep.
So we're going to carry that on, in terms of supporting them with that. But I think that's the start of a new way of working. I think for us in working closer with organisations that maybe just aren't quite close enough to manufacturing.
Yeah.
Because we've got a whole host of customers that have got an appetite for growth and change and improving things.
Yeah.
We're a good place for people to come who want to work with manufacturers that will grab hold of things and run with it. So we're going to be doing more of that. Our big event is May. So our conference is May. And we'll be looking at what the future holds for manufacturing, really. So, some of the topics will undoubtedly be sustainability, tech, skills, leadership, culture. I think that they'll be the main areas. And I think when I say sustainability, I mean beyond net zero.
Yeah.
Sustainability means much more, like a sustainable planet, economy. We've got to look after people's well-being. We need to be considering more of a circular economy and not having things going to landfill. So I think there's a lot of facets to sustainability. So I think it'd be good to have some people speaking at our event that aren't just talking about net zero, just kind of widen the scope of that conversation a bit. So
yeah.
And I think the challenge with young people is probably something I'm personally going to get more involved in. And that's how do we get more schools and manufacturing companies, engaging with each other at a younger age.
Yeah.
You've got to put it on the map for these youngsters, haven't you? I think there's some people doing it really well, but they are a minority. So you can't just complain and say no one ever knocks on our door for a job. You've got to get off your backside, haven't you, and do some of that.
You've got to be in it to win it. I've had a number of other guests on the podcast over the last sort of 18 months talking about that very topic. How do we get more youngsters into manufacturing and engineering? So there's probably some people I can put you in contact with. I'll chat to you offline about that. But well, Gary, we've sort of come to the end of the podcast. It's been a very insightful discussion. Thank you very much for your time. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you've enjoyed our chat today. So there we go. Another episode has come and gone. Thank you, the listeners, for joining us on Insights for Manufacturing. Look out for the next episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.